So hi everyone, good evening. Trust we are all having a great day. Trust we have been productive today. So in our previous class, I had mentioned that we are going to do this exercise. This exercise 3, example cafe recipes, right? So this is what we're supposed to work on today. We're supposed to create this wonderfully boring looking recipe list. Can't wait to get into the more fun stuff, right? But the structure is very important, so we have to learn it. As boring as it is, we have to get it out of the way, because if we don't get the structure right, every other thing will be terrible. So first of all, we have to eat up HTML and make sure that we're very, very good at it. So let's just take a recap of the last set of things we talked about before going to the exercise for today. So let me just go all the way up. Good. So I believe the last time we talked about fine-tuning your text in HTML. We talked about the different elements that we use to fine-tune our text. We talked about the strong elements. We even used them, if I recall correctly. We wrote some stuff down in HTML with them and we saw how they look. So we found out that the strong element is basically used to indicate that this and whatever content is put inside the strong element has strong importance, right? It is communicating seriousness and urgency, and it is represented as being bolder than every other thing in the paragraph or the sentence. Then we also use the cite element, which is used to refer to a title of work or something that you are quoting from another source, right? If you are referring to a book that you did not write, or a movie, those sort of things, right, or a music. So that's what we use cite for. Then we also looked at Q, which is used to quote within a sentence. So we want to quote someone or something within a sentence, you use the Q tag. While if you want to quote a whole sentence, a whole block of sentence or set of paragraphs, we use the block quote element, right? Because it stands alone, while the Q element is used within a paragraph or within a sentence. So that's the difference. I was explaining this to you the other time, and I said there are two types of elements in HTML. We have block elements and we have inline elements. Block elements are elements that take up the whole space on the browser, right? Until the content is finished and come to the next line. That's block element. They take up the whole space, the whole horizontal space, the whole on your screen, right? Then we have inline elements. Inline elements just take up the only the space for the content. So a block element will take up this whole space, everything from here all the way here, but a quote element will only take up probably, let's say, here. So that's the difference. Inline and block, like the name implies, one takes up a whole section, one takes up just a part within a section, right? And inline elements are used inside block elements. You get to understand that more as we proceed. Then we have definition elements, which we use to represent the term being defined in a sentence or a paragraph. Then we have the code element for adding code to our web pages. So let's say we want to display some code out to the user. We use the code element to show that, okay, this is a code, so that it looks a bit different. It has a different font, different spacing to it. It's very obvious that this is code, right? And we have the var element, which we use to represent variables. So when we go into JavaScript, you get to understand what variables are. Then we have the sample element, which is used to display output from a process, such as error messages from a computer script. That's pretty self-explanatory. So going into this exercise today, the main aim is to use the tags that we just talked about to create this document, right, with the content. So I've done that already, but I'll just do it again so that we can all follow along and see that okay, it's not so hard, it's not so difficult. So if you can see it here. So let's just go ahead and create a new file. Alright, so let's create a file. Okay, sorry, that's not supposed to be capitalized. Sorry, mistake. Let's change this to HTML first instead of plain text, so we know what we are working with. HTML. Right, so now we can, okay, let's start with our doc type. Good, now that we have our document, let's just give it a title. Let's say exercise 3. Then we will go into the body. So in the body, we have to check here. Okay, what's in the body? The first thing in our body is our h1 tag. So the h1 tag, write it here. Okay, let me just do this. Let me copy the text from here so we don't have to type it all the way. Already typed it, so you don't need to type it twice. Ctrl C. Come back here, Ctrl V. So that was our H1. And the next thing we have on our document is some paragraphs, right? 2 paragraphs. So let me go ahead and grab the first paragraph. If my text editor looks different, it's because I updated it, so it's nothing to worry about. So I'll just grab this. Then I'll explain to you the tags that are there. Let's go back. Right, so from the document, we can see that the text Sydney food is blue and it is italicized, right? So how do we make text italicized? We can use the EM or we can use the I tag. So let me just change this to I because that's easier to remember. I for italicized, right? That's what makes it slanted. When I say italicized, I mean slanted. If you've worked with Microsoft Word, you should know what italicized means. Then the reason why it's blue and it's underlined is because it's a link, right? In HTML, we have what we call links. I've not explained this to you before, but let me explain it now. Links are created using the anchor tag. The anchor element or the A element is what we use to create links, and the A element comes with an opening and closing tag, right? It's not standalone, and it has an attribute called href, which is where you specify where the link should take you to. So for example, if you click on a link, of course you expect it to take you somewhere, right? That's the whole purpose of link, right? Yeah, hyperlinks, they link documents, pages, and stuff like that. So how do we specify where it takes you to? So let's say we want this to take us to Google. All we have to do is to put the link to Google here. Google.com, right? So, and whenever we click on this link, it take us to Google. But now if you look closely, there's a problem. If we run this on our browser, we are not going to see anything. Have we created a link? Yes, we have. We are giving it the attribute of where we want it to take us to whenever it's clicked. But the only problem is that we don't yet have a content. We don't yet have what is clickable. How do we do that? We go in between the opening and closing tag. If you can see that space, that is where we put whatever we want to be clickable. Take for example, I want to say click to visit Google. Perfect. So when we open this on our browser now, what we would see is click to visit Google. We will not see this link here. So So let me just go ahead and save this so that we can try it out. Save as, then let me save it as exercise 3. Exercise 3. Then let me open it with Chrome. Great, so we can see this, right? As we can see, what we see here is click to visit Google. If I go back to our code now and I remove this, right? Let me remove this and save. Come back to our code, refresh. You see, we don't see it again. So when creating your links, always remember to put the content in between, which is what the user sees, right? So whenever the user clicks on that content, let me save that and refresh. You see, whenever the user clicks on this now, it will take them to Google. But because I don't have data, it will not take me anywhere. But as you can see, so I'm not connected to the internet, right? I don't have data on the laptop. Okay, so that's why it's not going. But if you can see the link here now in our address bar, it is google.com. So that's basically how links work, right? You have an attribute called href where you specify the link. So it's href equal to double quotation marks and the link in between the double quotation marks. Then you close your opening tag. Don't forget, our attributes are always put inside the opening tag. And once you close your opening tag, you now put the content, which is what the user can see and interact with. So that's basically what we did here. Let me just delete this. That's basically what we did here with Sydney Food. Because if we can go back to our document, you'll see that here, Sydney Food is blue. Now, the only thing that makes a text blue and underlined in HTML is a link. That is the default behavior of a link. It is blue and it is underlined. So we know that anything, once we see something that is blue and underlined, it is a link. And if it's slanted, it is italicized. So that's why we put it in the link here. And as you can see, instead of the link, we put the hashtag. Now what the hashtag does is that, okay, this is a link, but this is a dormant link. It doesn't take you anywhere, but it has the appearance of a link. So if we check this in our browser, we should see, let me refresh. So, okay, I've not saved that. Control save and refresh. Good, you see that it is slanted, it is underlined, and it is blue because that was the default behavior of a link. And now if you look at it closely, I clicked on it and the color changed. That's because in HTML, when you click on the link and it becomes active, it changes to purple. That's the default behavior. You can always change this if you want, but this is the default behavior, so it changes to purple. When you click on it, it is red, but once that's loaded, it changes to purple. But before you click on it, it is shown as blue, right? So that's HTML for you. So next on our list, we have the next thing here that we have to make sure we take note of is this first. If you look at it, it is first, and the ST is a super text. Now, what is super text? Super text is basically text that is up, right? It's not on the body like every other thing. And how do we get that? Okay, I made a mistake here. Let me just correct that. Because from our document, we can see that 1 is a normal number 1. Then the ST is what is a super text, right? So we put the ST in the SUP tag, right? The SUP element. So let me just do this. Great. So anything you put in the SUP element goes up. So if we save this, go back to our browser, you see that the ST is now up, right? It is up. That's because we put it inside the SUP element, right? Great. So that's it for that. Then the next one that we have, I believe, is also a paragraph. So let me put the paragraph. So copy the content from here. Control C and come back here. Control V. I don't know if I'm moving too fast for you people. try and slow down a bit. So if we check here, everything is pretty much as it should be. But if you notice something, there's a quotation mark there's a quote here, very special breakfast, right? And we can pretty much write the quote out like this, but another way to do this is by using the Q element, I believe. Q. So I'll just come here, save it, and F5. As you can see, it is still quoted, right? Let me go to the page source so that you see it. See, we don't have any quotation marks here. What we have is the Q opening tag and the Q closing tag. And if we check our browser, you'll see it puts the quotation mark for us here. So that's pretty much it from the second paragraph, right? Then what do we have to do next? The next one is ingredients. So that's pretty much a H2 or H3 tag. I'll just use H2, depending on the size you want. There's no wrong answer with that one. So keep forgetting to already used to VS Code. Okay, great. So because I'm too lazy to type it, I will just copy it. So paste here, save that and refresh. We have our ingredients, right? On to the next. What is next? We have a paragraph saying the following ingredients make one serving. So that's just a paragraph. Right, so just copy it again. Control C, and we come back here, paste it, save it, go to our browser and reload. Perfect. The following ingredients make one serving. Nothing special there. Then the next thing we have here is UL. What is UL? On ordered list, right? Because as you can see, there are bullet points, and as I told you when we're talking about lists, when you are talking about or when you are creating an ordered list, it is always represented by default in HTML using bullet points. So let's go ahead and just copy that in. Copy our UL with on ordered list. Then you come back here and paste it. Perfect. So now if you can look at the list items, you'd quickly notice that some of them have a little bit of styling to them. Like if you check the third items on our list, this 1/3, okay, 1/3 cup of cream. Then okay, I think that's just another way to say 1/3 cup of cream. That's like 2 into 3/4 ounces or something. Anyways, what we're focused on is how it is styled. It looks different from what is in the bracket, looks different from what is outside of the bracket. So we have to make that italicized. And there are two ways to do that. Like I said, you can either use the I tag or the EM tag, right? So there's a mistake here. I think even the brackets are italicized. So let me just put the brackets inside the EM tag. As you can see, some of these tags are used in a sentence, and those are what we call inline elements. Right, so you don't see anybody using a block quote inside a p tag because that is a block element. So let me save this. Okay, return back to the browser, reload, and we have the two whatever. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that again. Right, so we use the metric system here in Nigeria. I don't know, whoever did this must have been American. Anyways, so we can see that it is italicized now, just how it is here, right? And that's pretty much the only thing that is different in styling in the ingredients. Then we have instructions. That should be H2. Sorry, I just like to italicize my work so it looks good and give a lot of spacing so it's easy to follow along. Let me just do that. No, that's too much. Yeah, perfect. I like to indent to keep everything clean and readable, because I can forget a lot. So when I'm coming back to this, I want to be able to understand what I did with ease. So that's why I like to have very clean, readable code. So looks way better. Now we have the H2. I keep making this mistake. H2. And we copy it. This is instructions, right? Sorry, I'm just too lazy to type today, so I have to be able to make copying everything. And paste. So close that up. Then what do we have next? We have lists, and this list, obviously, as you can see, it is not bullet points, it is numbers, so that tells us that it is an ordered list. So I'll just go ahead and grab it from here, grab our ordered list, come back here and paste it in. So as you can see here, okay, let me also indent it. We all know how lists work, so this should not be anything confusing to anyone at this point, because we looked at them extensively. It's just an ordered list represented by OL elements and LI for each list item, right? So this looks clean. There's no special formatting. Okay, I think I'm seeing one. Okay, yeah, there is. On instruction 2, it says melt the butter in a non-stick pan over a high heat. And then in brackets, it says taking care not to burn the butter. So that's just basically what we just did for the ingredients too. So this time around, let me change it to the I element, so that we can see that both of them have, or you can use both of them to achieve basically the same result. So let's see. Okay, did I save that? I'm not sure. Save it. Great. We can see that taking care not to burn the butter is now italicized or slanted, just the same way this is slanted. So basically, when it comes to coding, there's no specific way to arrive at a destination. There are usually multiple ways. Just like the languages, there are multiple languages to achieve the same goal. Just like people use JavaScript for web development, some people prefer to use PHP, some people use Flutter. Like there are many tools. Some people prefer no-code tools that are available out there. So there are just many ways to arrive at the same destination, at the same result. What matters is that you arrive the destination as an efficient way, right? You arrive your destination in a way that is easy, fast, efficient. That's why as a developer you have to be lazy, because you have to love taking the easy route. And the easy route is not necessarily the one that is easy for you to develop. It is the one that is easy for you to maintain, to read, to understand, to load the pages faster, to make the user have the best experience. That's the easy route, right? When I say easy route, I don't mean doing what is easy for you. I mean putting your users first and doing what is easier for the client. Just like when you go to Facebook, you want everything to load in an instant. The developer has to consider that when anybody comes to Facebook and it's loading for more than 1 minute, they will close the app and forget about it. So you have to think of every user as a very lazy and annoying and frustrating person. That's the best way to do your best work, right? Because every user is lazy. If you open a web page and it's loading for more than 5 seconds, I can guarantee you that you will close it and you will just forget about it, right? So you have to think of your users like that and do what is very fast, very efficient, very user friendly, and also consider that as a developer you might want to maintain and upgrade and improve on that code. So it should be readable, it should be sustainable, it should be maintainable, right? It should be scalable too. When you are starting your company, you can have only 10 users that are using your code and it works, but would that code also be able to function and serve when you have 100,000 users? Those are the things you think about when picking the tools to use and how to go about creating your digital solution. So that was just a bit of divergent from the main topic. So the last thing we have here is a paragraph, right? And it's just the only special formatting it has here is the bold. I'm sure anyone can make any text bold. You can either use the B tag or the strong tag. Anyone, you achieve the same results. So it's just a paragraph with one word being bold. So let's just grab it from here. Okay, they use strong here since it's strong that we talked about the last time, so it makes sense to use strong. And it doesn't matter, I did this actually. So that works. This works. So this is basically okay. Let me save it. We can now open it and compare. Right, so we have added the last paragraph. So now if we compare it with this, I don't think anything is missing, right? I think we have everything as it looks here, right? So this is basically it. We've come to the end. We've been able to successfully do the exercise, right? The only stressful part of this exercise is typing, honestly, because you type a lot. But good luck with that, it's part of the process. So what we are going to do now is to see what we're talking about next. So we're talking about links and navigation. So I've already introduced you to links, right? You should go ahead and try them out. Before our next class, we'll talk about links, how to create links, how to link other documents, external websites, how to create bookmarks, how to send links to send email, and all those type of things, right? So it's going to get more fun, trust me. Then at the end of that, we'll look at this example that has different links here, like has a menu. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it already. See you guys on the next one.